All right, looks like we're ready to go. Hi, everyone. My name is Derek Herman. I'm the chief of our Transformational Technology Division here at PennDOT, hosting the NEVI program. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our Round 1B webinar. I'm joined here today by my esteemed colleague, Colton Brown. If you could introduce yourself quick, Colton.
Hi there, good afternoon, everybody. Colton Brown working here with Derek and others on the NEVI program.
Thank you. And we'll be talking to you today about our Round 1B program. So just a couple notes of housekeeping. We are going to be using Mentimeter. So we have a code here at the bottom. We have a couple questions in about 3 slides. If you could join us, we appreciate any feedback. This is more just to help us understand who's here and who we're talking to today. So as you may have noted, we've also disabled cameras and mics. Again, just noting that we're recording this for future use, so makes things a little easier, but please do feel free. We encourage feedback and questions through the comments box in Teams. And you can always feel free to use the fun reactions button in Teams as well. So again, just pointing at the Menti code, we're at 1664-4285. You can just go to menti.com. We'll be getting to those questions here in the next slide. So if you could take a chance and take a moment to join us, we'd really appreciate that. What we'll be going over today is a quick update on EV registrations and some of the work we're doing there. We'll talk about NEVI, what we've done so far in round 1A, and why we're here today to talk about round 1B. And then we'll have an open questions and answers period. So with that, please join me. I'm going to switch tabs here real quick over to our Mentimeter and have our first poll question up. Oh, wow. It looks like the poll already started. So we have some people coming in already. If you could, just let us know who you represent today. I'll give a couple more questions for the couple more time for the first question, just so we have folks getting a chance to get over to Menti. Looks like a pretty nice spread. So always appreciate the local folks and planning folks, as well as our utility joining us. Really appreciate it. And as well as our EVSEs. Always looking forward to talking to you folks. So glad to have you all here today. I'm going to switch over to the next question. This focuses on round 1 and round 1A, our previous funding opportunities, and just curious if you applied or had any interest in applying. Okay, good. Looks like a pretty good spread. So hopefully we get some folks interested in applying to round 1B through our webinar today. Next question, do you plan to pursue round 1B funds? Okay, thank you for the feedback on that. And that's the end of our questions. So I'm going to switch back over to our presentation here. So the first thing I want to talk about is updates to our EV registrations in the state in our fleet. The first thing I'll point to, we have a new interactive map. So if you check this out on our website, you can go to penndot.gov/EV. And there's a map where you can break down by zip code and county of the EV registrations. And I'll show you here in the next slide where we're currently at on that. But what's nice about this map is you can click on each one and look a little bit further into the data of plug-in hybrids versus battery electric and other vehicles. So it's a nice resource. Just wanted to point it out. So the most recent update we have, we're at about just well over, slightly over 100,000 battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. That puts us very close, if not at 1% of our state fleet now in Pennsylvania. And if adding in hybrid electric vehicles, we're at almost 400,000 vehicles in the state. So looking forward to keeping that growing and hoping to support that through the NEVI program here. With that, the NEVI program, if you're new to it, I assume, by now with round 1B, most of you are not new to this, but NEVI is a set aside from the IIJA. It's $171.5 million to Pennsylvania over 5 years. We've opened up now round 1 and round 1A with awards of round 1A most recently getting announced. That was back on April 4th. And we are now excited to be talking about our round 1B, which opened coincidentally the same day we actually posted the map, and our proposals will be due on July 10th. So with that, we're going to talk a couple things through NEVI round 1B, some slight changes, and Colton will go over that in a couple slides. And previous to this, we've submitted 2 of our NEVI state plans so far. We are required at the state level to submit state plans annually, and we have another one coming up due this August. And it's a growing document. As we learn and as we reach out to folks and go through these different rounds of NEVI, we've been updating and adding and tweaking things here and there, trying to make the program better. With that, there are requirements for NEVI, and these have largely unchanged. We still obviously need DC fast chargers every 50 miles along the alternative fuel corridors. There's still required to be 4 ports and 600 total kilowatts with 150 at each port. They have to be within 1 mile of the highway. So again, largely this is unchanged from previous funding rounds. But if you're new to this, this is a good resource for you. And this is all detailed in our funding opportunity document. As I mentioned, the alternative fuel corridors, these are the routes that we are required to fill out in our first round of NEVI. So what we're working towards right now with round 1, 1A, and 1B is trying to finish out the 50-mile gap build out of all of these sites on our AFCs. So this map, again, it's also online. You can see this as well through some of our other resources on the NEVI website, on PennDOT's NEVI website. But you can see where the stations are and where they're going to be. We also have a map showing our gaps for 1B, which we'll get into. But these are the AFCs that we have to finish building out to receive our build out certification and go into our second round of NEVI funding, which we expect to go out to into more community-based build outs in some of our other routes of significance in the state. So round 1 and 1A, we had a very similar selection process. We focused obviously on building out the AFC network, including some of our logical paths of travel. So we're looking at routes where interstates maybe go from one to the next and making sure there's no more than 50 miles between those stations. Good customer experience. So we're always interested in safety and making sure that users are feeling comfortable and have a good space to go and spend their time while they're charging. Consistent, reliable network, and then a variety of funding recipients. We've purposely looked for spreading out the wealth, so to speak. We've also looked at positive impacts for local economy and workforce opportunities. We put some points in our scoring towards that, and as well as equity and J40. This is one of the maps I was speaking about earlier. So this is on PennDOT's NEVI webpage. You can get through that clicking through the penndot.gov/EV website. This map shows all of our NEVI awarded projects so far and what status they're in. So all of our round 1A projects are just planned at this moment as we just did awards earlier this month. We still have quite a bit to work through. We're getting those towards contracting. Round 1 projects are either planned, in progress, or operational. So we now have one operational site, which I'll show you in a minute here. And we have two more sites that joined it in current in progress. So that means they've kind of started under construction, basically. So we're looking forward to more of these sites going under construction through this quarter. With that, round 1 and 1A together, we have 83 projects in 41 counties spreading across $52.9 million. And we expect the typical timeline to be about 18 to 24 months. Uh, what's nice about this interactive map too is you can zoom in and see where all these sites are and click on them for a little more additional information. So I suggest checking that one out. As I mentioned, we have one of our operational sites. It was the third in the nation. We're very happy with it, very proud. It was opened up in Pittston in the sort of Wilkes-Barre Scranton area, if you're unfamiliar. It was a project with Pilot, and this opened up in December 2023, and has already provided well over 200 charging sessions in the first month, and quite a lot more than that since then. We just got a little bit more data on that, and the usage has been fantastic. We're very excited. So what's next? Obviously, we're here talking today about NEVI Round 1B, and we'll get into that in more detail here in the next couple slides. Hoping that this is potentially our last round at filling out those alternative fuel corridors so we can go into what we're calling round 2, our community build out. We expect we should have about $100 million left out of the 171.5. And we're working on planning for what that looks like now. So it's been a sort of iterative process we're taking, and with the way that the program works right now to get build out certification, we expect that it would probably open up in late 2026 or early 2027. We also are working on EVC RA. So the RAA program here is a program that was a 10% set aside of NEVI in order to basically fix broken chargers. And we anticipate running that very similarly to our NEVI program. So only difference being there is that we have 293 eligible charging ports, and those are at 174 specific locations. These were locations that were on the AFDC website on a specific date, and we expect we'd get around 20 to 50 of those sites awarded out. So very much more to come on that. We're working pretty hard right now to try and get that one out, and hopefully we can announce that pretty soon here. So more to come on that one. We also received an award from the DOE through their VTO office for testing out equipment, construction equipment that is electric. So we're procuring a skid steer, a loader, a roller, and a battery unit for testing out with our maintenance operations. So we hope to have some reports out on that as the project progresses. So I'm going to turn it over now to Colton to go ahead and give you some details on our round 1B.
Thank you, Derek. Sounds good. I see we may have some questions that are starting to come in the chat, and that is great. We will get to all of those at the end during the question time. So here's the timeline for the Round 1B program currently open. So it was on that April 4th that we released the map of the eligible locations. We now have the full funding opportunity released on April 22nd. Right now, we're at the webinar. So it'll be Monday is the deadline to submit any technical questions regarding the Round 1B program to our resource account. We'll have that email account at the end of our slides here. 1 week after that, we will have the responses to those technical questions posted online. And at the same time, we will open our online system for proposals. So May 13th through July 10th is when you can be in the system working on and submitting those proposals. From now through about 15 days before the proposal deadline is the appropriate time to be submitting the utility form to the electric utility for your candidate sites. 10 days before, in this case, 10 days before winds up being a Sunday, so it's actually 9 days before our proposal deadline, we will post an update of the Davis-Bacon Wage Act terminations. Should there be any updates since April 22nd, when we release the funding opportunity, and then we'll get it turned around as quickly as we can, but we have some time there for PennDOT to be reviewing the proposals and coming out with the conditional award notifications. And then we'll proceed with environmental permitting and working towards contract execution for the Round 1B sites. So here you can see that map of Round 1B priority locations and eligible locations. You can find this on PennDOT's website as well. When you're on the website and you're looking at the map, you can zoom in and see the 1 mile polygons off of each exit. Those are the areas that are eligible to pursue the funds. And then the larger bubble that you see here is what tells you which exits or locations are competing against each other for awards. So this is obviously a pretty targeted and specific funding round. There's really a few, four namely, priority one groups, which is where we've identified as a definite need for NEVI credible station, to be able to meet our build out requirement that Derek talked about earlier, having a station at least every 50 miles. And then we have a variety of other locations, 10 of them on here as priority two locations. Those we've identified as good for redundancy and or equity purposes as we look to build out a robust charging network for all of our travelers in and through Pennsylvania. Next slide. So here we're going to go over essentially comparing the program to round 1A. So if you've been following the NEVI program, you've been pursuing these funds, which it sounds like a lot of you have been, we're going to go over kind of what's similar, what's revising a little bit, and what is new in round 1B. The spoiler here is not a lot is changing, if I had to summarize it very simply. But here you see many things that are similar, if not identical, to round 1A. That includes the online submission process through eGrants. It includes submitting the utility form to your electric utility for the site at least 15 days prior to the proposal deadline. You can still submit it closer to the proposal deadline. It's just that if you submit at least 15 days before the deadline and you don't hear back from the utility, we will not hold it against you in the scoring. But if you do not give the utility 15 days and they don't have a chance to get back to you, then it does negatively impact the scoring for consideration. Minimum equipment requirements are staying the same. There's still requirement that you submit one proposal for each project address, so each site is its own unique proposal submitted in the system. We still have a detailed scoring rubric in the funding opportunity, so you can see not only the exact questions that will be in the eGrant system when it opens on May 13th, but you can also see the rubric that our scoring and selection team will be using to score those sites and select them. There is still a variety of information and graphics to assist our prospective contractors, including some, graphic kind of flow charts of one step to the next of the project. We have our final site design checklist, so exactly what we're looking to see in the designs of these sites before they're allowed to move forward to construction, as well as a checklist of the requirements that apply to the charging station equipment. So you can essentially see in one place, to the best of our knowledge, everything that goes into these charging stations. We also have, it's in there as a draft, but a largely final draft of the legal agreement that all round 1B contract award recipients will be expected to sign to be able to proceed with the projects. Go ahead, next slide. Okay. Also similar to round 1A, there's a requirement that you get a letter of commitment signed by the site host and submitted as part of the proposal. That's a scoring item as well. There's the level of commitment that we see from that site host, their engagement and desire to move forward with the project. There is still the requirement to have two ADA spaces, ADA compliant spaces as part of these projects. They may use the used last signage in accordance with the US Access Board recommendations. So essentially, it has to be two parking spaces that have the sizing for ADA, but anyone can use them if the other spaces are full. Davis-Bacon wage rates, similar process. We have the current wage rates in the funding opportunity as of the April 22nd date, and we will provide the updated wage rates shortly before on that July 1st date, so you know what wage rates will apply to your projects as you would later enter construction should the site be selected. And disadvantaged community scores also work the same as in round 1A, where from that from that map of eligible locations we just showed a little bit ago, there is a toggle in the lower left. You can select that to turn on the disadvantaged community scores, and you can essentially zoom into your project location, click on it, and one of the fields that it will show you is the disadvantaged community score for that location. That is up to 9 points out of the 100 maximum points. So you can see exactly how much priority that spot will get for its disadvantaged community score. Something that has been changed just a little bit from round 1A. We have a couple of proposal questions that changed it. Namely, we have a couple that were removed and those point values redistributed among other remaining questions. There's actually a little bit less to answer for the round 1B proposals. There is one of those questions that got a little bit more point value is the workforce development. And in line with that, to ensure that PennDOT is conveying the priority for workforce development and enabling our funding recipients to put not only effort into EV charging workforce development, but also potentially, things that could involve some expenditure. If you include EV charging workforce development, up to $40,000 of the federal share of those costs will not be counted when we are assessing the funding request score. So that is new this round, and you can see the details, a little bit more detail on that in the funding opportunity as well. So just like in prior rounds, we have our scoring rubric published in the funding opportunity. Here you can see the overarching scoring rubric, so summarized by category. And on our next slide here, you can also see the breakdown for a given section. Go to the next slide. Yep. So here's a breakdown for the qualifications and project approach section. So as we were talking about earlier, you can see the point value for each and the method by which we'll be assigning the score within the maximum. Next slide. And the last thing that we have here is the one piece that is new to round 1B, and that is a local hiring preference requirement. So the requirement here is that at least 50% of the amount of Davis-Bacon Act covered labor, so basically your construction labor, is completed by workers whose permanent residential address is within 50 miles of the project site. So you can see a little bit more detail on that in the funding opportunity. That's section 4, paragraph H for more detail, but just wanted to call it out as it is one new requirement-based item that is only found in round 1B and not in the prior funding rounds. Next slide. Yeah, so here we just have a variety of resources available to you. So this slide shows resources that are specific to NEVI. I apologize, the title should say round 1B resources. We missed that in our proofreading. But yeah, so important considerations for prospective contractors. We have our priority locations map that we showed you an image of earlier. We have the utility coordination contact. So we mentioned you have to complete that utility form, send that to the utility. There's a PowerPoint file. I think it's a PDF of a PowerPoint on our website that has a dedicated email at all of the major electric utilities in Pennsylvania where you can send that form to, and those forms are the only thing that go to that email account. So they know so you got it at the right place, and they'll process it and get it back to you. And then we also have the link there to the EVITP website, so you can look up electricians in Pennsylvania that are providing an assurance that they will have EVITP certified electricians. And then we have a variety of general EV resources as well. So a lot of good links here, to state uh, websites and resources and programs related to electric vehicles here. So with that, I believe we'll transition over to answering your questions. We have a variety that are coming in through the chat, so we'll start with those. And please feel free to keep them coming.
Yeah, so Colton, it looks like the first one here, is there a limit for this round? So an upper cap is what was typed out. I think that means on the funding awards.
Yeah, and so as we get into our questions here, the first thing I just want to note for everyone is that we will answer questions to the greatest extent we can based on what is in existing guidance and the funding opportunity. If there are any questions that ask for clarification or more information beyond what is already out there, we will just take that down as a note, and it will come out on that May 13th date when we provide the technical questions and responses on our website. But anything that is in that funding opportunity or otherwise, we'll be able to answer that here. So the question regarding, is there a limit on funding for this round? So there is not an established cap for like a specific project for this round. So there's no like upper bound on what funding can be requested for a project.
Thank you. The next one is that 15 business days? I believe this is referring to the utility coordination timeline.
Yes, the utility form, it is 15 calendar days that we request the form be submitted to the utility. So just 15 days.
Next, we just feedback here. It's great to have the utility coordination contacts. A question that goes with that. Do we have utility contacts included for municipal electric service providers, such as public power entities in the state?
I may have to look into that. I know that for a number of the co-ops and maybe some of the larger municipal electric, we might have a contact, but in other cases it might go to the association. So if you need to contact a municipal electric or a co-op that is not found in that file that's on the PennDOT website, then just reach out to our resource account and we'll get you in contact with someone.
Okay. Here, the next question was, what is the time period for deploying the infrastructure?
Yes, so the requirement is that the construction of the project be completed within 2 years following execution of the contract, within a potential for PennDOT to consider an extension if needed.
Next one, can developers take advantage of IRA tax credits for these projects?
We do not have any prohibition on also claiming tax credits for these projects. That would be up to the funding recipient to work that out.
I think this was just a clarification from earlier. So is there a limit for the entire funding or per site upper cap?
Sure. Yeah, there's not a upper bound funding per site. We also do not have a specific top limit for the funding round either. Um, we have, yeah, I don't think we've established a hard upper bound for either of those.
I believe we've hit all the questions. We can definitely hang out for a little bit. I'll show the next slide. This is our contact information if you would like to get a hold of us. This email does go to myself and Colton, as well as another member of our team. So there's always someone monitoring this if you ever need anything. But we'll hang out for a couple minutes. If anyone has questions, we can.
Yeah, and along the cap question, I do just want to call out that we do have a cap that no individual organization can receive more than 25% of the awards. So that is one cap that we do have. So it's not an amount per site, but it is more than 25% of the awards in dollar value nor in number of projects can go to a single organization. That also applies to the site host. So site host and organization getting the funding are both capped 25% of award and 25% of project count.
Ooh, a few more came in here. So when will we send out the presentation? I believe we're expected to post this on the website as soon as we can. I don't know if you have other expectations, Cole.
Yeah, we should be able to get the recording from this as well as the slides on the website probably in the next day or so. Would be our goal here.
There was also a question if we've had the ability to add a download data feature to our EV registrations map.
Yes, the EV registrations map, you can download the background data in table format, so you can see it that way as well.
Okay, next one. What does the waiver process entail, and when would it be applicable for the local workforce requirements?
That would be a clarification question that we do not have published, so we'll have to take that one back and get back to you on May 13th when we post the responses online.
Uh, Next one is if there's restrictions on the types of vehicles that can use the chargers.
The rule would be that the chargers cannot be restrictive. They have to be available for all light duty vehicles to use the charger, and really any vehicle size that is able to fit within the parking space, and plug into and use the same plug type. Uh, so I'm not sure if that answers the question, but let me know if not.
Yeah, and I'm not totally sure on this next one as well. So the question says, can site owner apply using different companies for the same site? I'm assuming that means coming in with different companies in one proposal. But Saksham, if you could clarify that for us, just so we know we answer your question as best as possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Okay, so clarification on the vehicle question. So medium and heavy duty vehicles are not the priority, is the follow-up question to that.
Yeah, so the sites have to be usable by light duty vehicles. There's no, there is actually some scoring preference to also having accommodation for medium and heavy duty, or you're even just planning for future charging of medium and heavy duty on the site. But the sites have to have the ability for light duty vehicles to charge at a time.
Next was, will the list of awarded projects and teams be added to your site once selection is made? We do post the awarded projects and the awardee. I don't believe we share the teams out.
Yep, correct. Thanks, Natasha, for helping out in the chat, giving people some links.
Okay, any restrictions on charger types?
So the NEVI program, federally, nationally, for projects that are serving our alternative fuel corridors are required to provide at least 4 ports that each offer at least 150 kilowatt of continuous and simultaneous charging availability. So there's that requirement. PennDOT has added a requirement that two vehicles be able to charge at 300 kilowatt speeds if only two vehicles are connected. Yep, thank you, Derek. So there's those general requirements for the chargers. There's also the requirement that you have to have a CCS connector on every port. So essentially every vehicle at the site must be able to charge with the CCS type. And then there can also be NACS connectors or availability of NACS on the ports, but you must have CCS on every port.
Before everyone drops off, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. We appreciate the interest in the NEVI program and all the success we've had so far. I think has been added to pretty much great partnerships we've had with all of our awardees. So looking forward to the next round, and thank you for joining us. We'll hang out, as I said, for a couple more minutes if you have any other questions.